Max Verstappen, the current Formula One world champion, has criticized the concept of regulating driver pay as a way to save money in the sport, claiming it would hurt new drivers trying to get into the sport's top division. We will be discussing Max Verstappen's frustration about the salary cap idea of Formula One. Stay tuned till the end to learn more about it. Please like the video, share and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. Though there have been rumors of a potential ceiling of $30 million across both of the team's drivers, there has not been agreement on its implementation up to this point. Drivers like Verstappen, who is now on a long-term deal with the team for around £40 to £50 million per year for the following 5 years, may be impacted by such a change. It seems a little hazy to the current world champion, who said it made no sense. He thinks that everyone, including the teams and the F1 organization, is generating more money as the sport gains in popularity. According to the Dutchman, drivers help the sport develop and should not have their pay reduced as a result. The current world champion remarked during the drivers' news conference prior to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, "It's still all a bit vague as well, right? I mean, I think no one really knows where it's going to go, but from my side, it's completely wrong. Because I think at the moment, F1 is becoming more and more popular and everyone is making more and more money, including the teams, Formula One. Everyone is benefiting. So why should the drivers with their IP rights and everything be capped, who actually bring the show and put their lives at risk? Because we do eventually, so for me it's completely wrong. In order to level the playing field and reduce expenditure among the top teams in the sport, F1 implemented a budget cap last year. There are certain exceptions to the cap, which is presently set at $140 million annually. Examples include marketing expenses, driver wages, and the salaries of the team's top 3 earners. The cap has already generated controversy, with several clubs requesting a modification due to pressure from inflation since the year's beginning. On the other hand, F1 is thinking of implementing a driver wage ceiling in the long run, which would essentially constrain drivers' earning potential. Although no agreement has been reached, the concept has received public backing from various teams. Verstappen thinks a driver wage ceiling is unjust, since the driver should profit from F1's soaring popularity and just signed a new Red Bull contract through the end of 2028, worth in the range of $40 to $50 million annually. In an effort to balance the playing field and give smaller teams an advantage, the sport instituted spending limitations for teams in 2020, citing the global economic crisis and the epidemic. All drivers have voiced opposition to the salary cap that is being proposed. However, it must be remembered that Max Verstappen, who recently re-signed with Red Bull, is now officially the F1 driver earning the highest salary. With the Austrian squad, the Dutchman has agreed to a rich contract that would pay him €50 million annually until 2028. Many junior drivers with sponsorship terms in their contracts state that if they make it to Formula One, the sponsors will receive a portion of the driver's future earnings, according to Max Verstappen. However, a salary cap may diminish such support due to a subpar return on investment. He explained, "In all the junior categories, if you see how many of those drivers have a sponsor or backer who eventually will have a certain percentage of their income in potentially Formula One or whatever, I think it's going to limit that a lot, because they will never get their return in money if you get a cap. So it will hurt all the junior categories as well, and I don't think you would want that." As the sport and teams consider enacting the rule, several drivers have also concluded that the driver wage ceiling is an unnecessary restriction. 7-time F1 champion Lewis Hamilton added, "I think there are many of us here who have been heavily invested in as youngsters and have had to pay that back, which you would naturally want to do anyway. So that for sure could be impacted in the future for the younger generation." Also, you have to remember that this sport is going from a $4 to $6 billion business to a $14 billion business. It's consistently growing, and the teams are earning more money than ever before, and we are a huge part of that. I won't be here for a huge amount longer, but I do think about the younger generation, and I don't think that they should be capped. Sebastian Vettel, a 4-time champion, made a suggestion that the pay ceiling plan is more about teams seeking to boost their personal earnings than it is about improving the sport. "I think it's wrong to have a salary cap for the reasons Lewis mentioned. I think it's interesting if you follow up on where it is coming from, this proposal. Obviously, we have a budget cap now, which pushes the model towards earnings for all the teams, and I think maybe they should be capped in terms of having certain fixed earnings, and everything beyond that should go to a pool to do great things and have a positive impact. That's a suggestion, but I can imagine what the response would be and the topic would disappear. But isn't it a funny coincidence that the first time the teams can make money with racing in Formula One, something like the salary cap for drivers pops up? Just thinking, isn't that funny? Lando Norris, another driver with a long-term contract with his team that keeps him with McLaren through the end of 2025, agreed with Verstappen's assessment. Lando Norris said he agreed with Verstappen's points, especially about younger racers trying to make it to F1. "I think what he said is correct, especially the investment part into young drivers," added the McLaren ace. "It's difficult enough to get into F1 at all, so as soon as you have a backer or investment as a driver, they obviously want their money back at some point. Obviously, if it gets capped, it's much harder or will interest people much less to ever invest into young drivers and invest into people having chances to get into F1 in the first place." Several drivers, including Fernando Alonso, have questioned the veracity of this claim. Given the number of efforts drivers put in to promote the sport, he does not think that Formula One needs a wage cap. Sebastian Vettel has stated that he is against it, while Fernando Alonso agrees that it is unneeded. Given where the sport stands at the moment, according to Carlos Sainz, capping the drivers is a highly stupid proposition. Due to the number of tournaments they have been holding and the potential expansion of the championship to 25 to 30 races, he believes that the pay cap is absurd. Drivers' earning potential would be constrained if F1 management moved forward with proposals to enact a wage cap. Rising costs in F1 driven by inflation have led to concern on the grid, with worry that some teams may have no choice but to miss races if the current budget cap isn't increased, though there has been resistance to an increase in the limits teams are allowed to spend. While the FIA has maintained the concept is not being promoted by them, F1 owners Liberty Media are reportedly also opposed to the implementation of a pay cap. "We have been approached by several stakeholders about this subject. Discussions are underway, but it is still very premature. We are going to evaluate whether it is beneficial and whether it is something for the future. It is not being pushed by us." Those who are pushing for the implementation of a pay cap have drawn criticism from Verstappen's manager, Raymond Vermeulen, who stated that if the plan were to be implemented, it would be illegal. Drivers increase the value of a team. This may be exploited indefinitely by the relevant team, but to then give whoever you buy that value from, the driver, a certain limit, it means the world is upside down. They, Red Bull, are also very firm that they will never support it. I also think it is illegal. Take a look at the facts. A Grand Prix came to the Netherlands thanks to Max Zandvoort pays an annual amount to FOM to organize the race, a large part of which is divided among the teams. So they benefit from that. It would then be very strange if you were to limit only the driver's earnings model. Vermeulen also thinks that the present F1 structure encourages sponsors to help young drivers by giving them the chance to eventually earn a good income, adding, "That's why I think this is a bad idea for the sport. You need these investors and sponsors who invest in talent and want to be associated with that driver for a long time. A salary cap will affect the entire sport." It appears that a separate ceiling on how much drivers may be paid is also being discussed as a debate rages in the paddock about whether runaway inflation should raise the $140 million per team budget maximum in 2022. The conversations were confirmed by Ferrari CEO Mattia Binotto. "These discussions will take time," he said at Monaco, "as you have to deal with the existing contracts." Do you think the salary cap will be implemented? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for staying with me till the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like and share the video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Bye!